everyone, Matt from Dirt Mode Rider here. Thanks so much for coming by and checking out the video. Today we're talking about the 2023 CRF110F. This bike is aimed for riders between 8 and 11 years old, and in my case, it's for my 9-year-old who recently upgraded from a CRF150. So the CRF110F has been around since 2013. It's been around for a while and it's a solid motor on a solid frame. This bike was introduced to really replace the XR70. One of the biggest upgrades that this bike received in 2013 when it first came out was it was electric start. That's a huge deal for riders then, and it's certainly a huge deal for riders now. Obviously our CRF50 bikes are still kickstart. With this being electric start, it really encourages your child to want to step up next size bike. The other nice thing about this bike is in 2019, now this is a 2023 model, but in 2019 they introduced electric fuel injection. So that's an even bigger deal. You're not worrying about cold starts, you're also not worrying about carb issues. I mean, still use the best gas out there, but we've all encountered clogged carburetors, clogged jets, all that stuff. This bike is fuel injected, which is awesome. I mean, to start it up and get on and go is probably 2 minutes. Let it warm up, you're off and running. All right, you can totally hear the fuel injection engage. So easy to start, no choke, nothing. It's pretty much ready to roll. So top speed on this bike is about 35 miles an hour. Gets there by a 4-gear automatic clutch transmission. The bike is really easy to drive, especially for a newer rider or someone that's upgrading from a 50. But it is heavy, so that's one of the things to consider when you're getting this bike. I think anything in this bracket is going to be on the heavy side, especially in a 4-stroke engine. But this bike, with it going about 35 miles an hour, it's got a lot of low end torque. Ultimately though, we're riding the woods. We're not really looking to get top speed. We're just looking to enjoy ourselves. It's got decent suspension. It's not the greatest, but for my 9-year-old, he doesn't really know the difference. And honestly, it's nice to not have to worry about tinkering with suspension. You get some of these bikes, that have air forks and all that stuff. It's a lot of work. Something to introduce maybe down the road. But for a CRF110, this is a great bike. It's a great ride. And probably the biggest benefit is it's a Honda engine. It's gonna last forever. It's very rock solid. You're gonna be happy with it. So this bike in itself has just a little under 7 inches of ground clearance, which is pretty good. One thing I added to my 50 as well as this bike for my son was a skid plate. Now, a skid plate is not something that you absolutely need, but you're riding trails and there's rocks and there's roots and all that good stuff. You're kind of taking a chance. So Ricochet Off-Road offers a skid plate for this bike as well as the 50. And honestly, it was a great investment. $115 and gives you a good sense of security, especially if your son's out, he's a little older, he might be riding it a little tougher, or let's just say you hit that occasional rock. It certainly happens. The way the exhaust hangs low on this bike, I'm concerned about some damage that could happen to the manifold. With a skid plate, you're not 100% bulletproof, but you're gonna be in a little bit better of a shape. The other thing that's interesting about this bike is our seat height. So the seat height is 26 inches. Now, my son was going from a 50 to a 110. So he's going from 21.6 inches on the 50 to 26 inches on this bike. And as you'll see in the videos, he's definitely tippy-toeing it right now, which isn't a bad thing. I want him to kind of get a little bit more used to a different and a heavier bike, but I'm really proud of the way he's been able to throw this bike around and able to ride it. So really no complaints there. He's 9 years old. He's on the smaller side, so felt like this bike, he was just there to make the upgrade. So I'm excited about that. The weight on this bike is about 169 pounds. So you got electric start, you got a bunch of other stuff, you got a bigger engine, but 160 pounds versus the 110 pounds the CRF50 weighed. It's 3 horsepower, so not a huge engine, but 110 cc's. I think of my first dirt bike being a 125 when I was 13. it's still, I think it's heavier than my 125 was. Fuel capacity is actually really good. It's a gallon. I mean, we've only filled this up once or twice, and my son is constantly driving out on it. Right now we're in New York, so there's a good amount of snow in the backyard, so I've snow plowed a path for him, and he's getting a ton of enjoyment out of riding this thing, hitting it, and honestly, we're barely putting any gas into it. It's got front rear suspension as well as front rear brakes. Again, just kind of talking about this from before, doesn't have a clutch. So you have your your front brakes, and then you have your foot rear brakes. So really good bike to introduce someone. Electric start's super easy. You can't start it in neutral, which is obvious for safety. I'm sorry, you can only start in neutral, which is an obvious safety concern. You know, we want to be able to not start it in any gear and have the bike walk off on you. I know there's kits out there that allow you to do that, but not something I really feel is necessary. I want him starting it in neutral, so not a big deal at all. So thanks so much for taking a look at CRF110F. It's a great bike. I'll give you guys some close-ups of it. I'll also demonstrate cold start for you as well, so you get an idea how it's gonna start and run. And then I'll show you some videos of my son riding. So thanks so much.